Okay, so I've completed reinstallation of the fuel regulator. Pistons installed, all that good stuff, timing's done. So all we have or what our next step would be, is to reinstall this back plate. Now I'm going to make a decision here that might be somewhat unpopular, but I don't really care. Seeing as this carb body and this back plate, that their gaskets came off intact, and the engine did not appear to be have any signs of leakage when I took it apart, I'm going to leave these gaskets in place. I figure right now it's probably more detrimental if I were to try and get those things off, scrape them off, or whatever I have to do to get them off and then put a new one on, than it is just to at least give it a shot with these original gaskets on there, since they didn't break and they're intact. So anyway, that's the decision I'm making, and that's how we're going to go with this. So I've got my piston here at top dead center. Now my back plate is going to go on like this. So this is the top. So I need to have this hole at the top, because that's what's going to engage in my crank pin. So let's just gently place this in place. Now when I was trial fitting this, it went on perfectly and didn't require any manipulation at all. But now it would appear that it kind of wants to be a pain in the butt. Let's get this recentered there. Recenter here. This should just drop right in place. And there it is. So now the next thing is the carb body will go on here like this. There's these two different size screws. Now the short screws I can go ahead and put in here and get this held in place. Just run them down with my fingers right now. Now as I said, I'm not going to be replacing this gasket here either. So let's just drop these two. All of these parts have been soaking in oil, so that's why you don't see me dripping oil in these holes, because all this stuff's pretty heavily saturated with oil as it is. Stretch here. This should be the final segment of the reassembly of this engine. Now, before I get into that, I want to make one comment about this engine. And so far, the one thing that I think is absolutely positively superior in this engine design over all others that I've seen is this double O-ring seal of the intake manifold. I mean, that's just incredible. Incredibly simple, but yet incredibly effective. Now I've tested, I didn't get my O-ring set, so I have not replaced these. I'm not going to replace them because they look and feel fine, and especially when I do a blow test in here, I just blow in this and I can tell that I'm not getting any leakage through there at all, so I'm testing my valve also and that seal. So the way it feels, I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be okay here. Now with regards to other O-rings, I did happen to go and buy a big 387 plus piece metric O-ring set from Harbor Freight. Excuse me, and of course the exact O-rings I needed aren't in there, but I've got some that are fairly close that I've kind of stuffed in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to reassemble this thing using these O-rings that are slightly larger OD and slightly smaller ID than are required, and I'm just going to see if I can just cram it together. And if I can cram it together and the head looks like it's seated flush and good, then we're going to try and run it. Otherwise, I'm going to have to actually get the proper O-ring set. But as far as those are concerned, they were really dry rotted and nasty. I have them here. So if I have to take this thing down again just to replace those, it's not going to be a big deal. So anyway, let's get on to this. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this on first. Kind of do something like this. But I need to try and work. Okay, so that's the head seated nicely, all that happy stuff. But I have to work my push rods in there. So, one at a time, kind of try and work a push rod tube in here and see if I can make this want to work. Now I need to start dropping screws in here. Just want to kind of get them started here first. And I'll check for alignment. Because I'm sure this thing is sitting up like this right now, which it totally is. So I'm going to have to really push down on this and see if I'm going to be able to make these O-rings do what I want them to do. So I'm just holding a lot of pressure down. I'm just running it down until it starts to feel a little snug there. So they're all kind of semi-snuggish. I want to take a close look here and see what I've got. I don't see anything bulging out on the top. The top looks okay. I don't see anything bulging out at the bottom. It looks like our head is going down pretty good. So I'm going to start putting a little more torque on that. Now I'm going to start my diagonal pattern. Take another look here. Doesn't look like we've got any issues here so far, so being that these are pretty stout bolts, I'm going to actually put the torque like this. It's pretty even all the way around. Okay, I think I might be in good shape there. I mean, obviously there's only one way to tell, and determining if this is an issue after I'm trying to run it is really not going to be possible, but we'll see. It feels tight. Oh, where's the hole here? Engage in the head. Okay, there we go. Okay, yeah, that feels good. Okay, alright. So that's on there. The head is reinstalled with non-standard O-rings that look like they should do the job. Now with the head installed, I can drop my new push rods in, part number YS0680. I can take a look at these push rods. Okay, so here's new push rods. You can kind of see where they've been heat treated. It would here anyway. I mean, it just kind of looks like heat treat marks to me. So there you go, and let's do a quick side by side. I know I mentioned this in one of the other videos. Appear to be the exact same length, so let's drop those in place. Okay, so I've got my rocker arm adjusters threaded all the way up, and because I didn't pull this pin out, I'm going to have to slide this rocker arm on here while depressing the valve, and then try and push the valve down so I can get this rocker arm to go push right up, engage in the tube there, or the cup, just like that. Now let's see here, is this at the bottom? Now that's at the bottom. Should give me enough travel. Okay, those are both installed. Now it's just a matter of putting the clips on, which I did not order new clips, but these seem like they're in good shape. Okay, so these rocker arms are at max width, so I'm not going to have the compression I should have. But the rocker arms are installed and the E-clips are installed. Head is installed. Now we can actually go about adjusting the valves before I put the cover on. Okay, here it is, fully assembled and ready for its first test run. So I set the valves per my normal procedure. I used some OS feeler gauges and used the 0.04 millimeter as the as the gap, and then the 0.1 is the no-go. So it seems like it's got pretty decent compression. So I guess the next step will be to attempt to run this thing, and hopefully that'll take place this weekend sometime. But this is the completed, reassembled YS F-120 engine. I'll have to check and see where the needle valve should be set and that type of thing, but I went ahead and put an OSF glow plug in there, and we'll take it from there. I really like the way this header looks. This thing looks totally badass, so it should be fun to run.